Here, and we are incredibly excited. Sorry about the delay in the morning. That is absolutely a result of our excitement, nothing other than that, because we want everything to be great, but when you want everything to be great, sometimes things start a bit rocky. But hopefully the day still is going to be really entertaining and interesting for you, and hopefully you'll have like a lot of chance to try out different things that perhaps you haven't tried before. Okay. Who are we? I am TC. I am one of the lecturers, senior lecturers in the games department. I'm also the program coordinator of software engineering degrees, game programming and artificial intelligence. As a senior lecturer, I teach across game art, game programming, and AI. And I really love what I'm doing here because it includes a lot of creativity, a lot of change, a lot of dynamism, a lot of a lot of novelty actually day to day. And I've been doing this for more than 10 years now, and you can tell probably no one would stick to a job that long unless they are really having fun as they're doing it, right? And one thing that I hope for you as you start your journeys to studying at a university, I think, is that you find the fun in whatever you're doing, and hopefully you enjoy whatever you start doing as well in your future careers. So this event has been running since 2013. This year is its 10th year. And that's another reason why we're very excited, because keeping an event alive for that long requires a lot of passion and requires contribution of a lot of people. So I have been spearheading it, but it wouldn't have been possible without the presence of volunteers, without the keynotes coming in to become the role models for you folks, so that you can see that it's possible to be at really interesting places that you may not have thought about before, and that really, cliche, but the world is your oyster, right? Over the years, we had many faculty delivering workshops in this event. We had many students helping out in the events, and we had many graduates and students who actually also delivered workshops. So today's workshops, I think, is a testament to that as well. So we'll have 2 art and 2 programming workshops where you're going to have a mix of, graduate, current student, and faculty contribution. And I hope you will enjoy that. I hope you will enjoy yourself as you try out the information that's provided to you. Okay. So before I hand it over to our keynote, there are a few things that I need to do with you in terms of housekeeping for health and safety purposes. Okay. So bear with me while we're doing that, because it's important for all of us, just in case. Not that anything is going to happen, but being prepared is good, isn't it? Okay. So when you guys came in, that was our reception level 1, and that's the image that you see on the top right corner. Okay. So that's where we registered you, and we're not going to go back to that level one more time. Okay. So now we're on level 4, which is this kind of yellow image that you see on the left corner. And we are always going to stay on this level whole day. until we send you over at the end of the day. Okay? So if you need anything, we have student volunteers helping out, whom you hopefully met while you were registering downstairs on level 1, right? But I'm just going to point them out. Naomi, please put your hand up. We have Alex, please put your hand up. Sophia is our faculty. And then we have Eden, please put your hand up, Eden. And then Roman, please put your hand up. So one important thing that I need to point out right there is Roman is the designer of our material this year. So because of the delay we had at reception, we haven't had a chance to give these to you, but it's going to come through during the design workshop. So these kind of beautiful t-shirts that you see, the design is Roman's design, so thank you for that. That's lovely, that's beautiful, I love it. And that's out as well. So we are right now in Innovation Hub, which is the top red kind of square that you see there, right? And that's where we're going to come back for our morning tea, afternoon tea, lunch, okay? And then if you follow the arrows, it brings us to the little labs where we're going to do our workshops, okay? And our day is going to go between these two areas. You can see the bathrooms are on the way, and there are also bathrooms by the lift area where you come through, okay? So, in the event of an emergency, let's say a fire, what we're going to do is actually staying calm and following instructions. So our student helpers, our faculty, and anyone who is responsible in the workshops will be able to lead you out, okay? Leading out is going to be via the stairs. We're not going to be taking the lifts, obviously, and you're going to kind of come out to these stairs over there where you see like e-signs and by the lifts, but we're not going to be going on the lifts, okay? Does this make sense to everyone? Okay? Sweet. With that, I think we are now up to clear, okay? So we can just quickly go over our plan for today. So we're going to start with our keynote, which is like 10 plus 9 now. So it's going to be kind of delayed a little bit, which is perfectly fine, not a problem. After the keynote, we're going to do a game design workshop here, okay? And then after the game design workshop, we're going to go on to our game art workshops at 11, okay? After that, we're going to come back for lunch at 1 p.m. And then after half an hour lunch, we're going to go for the programming workshops, okay? And after that, we're going to come back here again at 3:30. We're going to do a careers panel. So this is going to be the first careers panel that we hold in person. And we are hoping that that's going to give you a good insight about potential pathways that you can take into your future careers as you're about to finish your high school and get to the university, okay? I want to say we love running this event with the idea that it's going to give you some information that you perhaps have not received at the schools that you are studying so far, okay? And from here, you will end up going towards a lot of different directions. And I love that, but I always believe everyone's path somewhat is going to come back to games, because games is such a space where everything actually kind of mixes together. So that's the core idea. Just have an open mind. Let's see where your studies take you, and then later on, maybe 10, 20 years, you just kind of, who knows, end up doing a job which is connected to games. Okay. So without further ado, I will just introduce our keynote today. So we have Dr. Hazel Bradshaw with us today. She's the Emerging Technology Practice Lead of Datacom Foundry. And she's actually specializing in the exploration, development, and adoption of new technologies. And her role involves supporting business leaders in exploring the growth opportunities of an Industry 4.0 world, so a new way of looking at actually the industry. Without taking more time, I'm going to hand it over to Hazel, and she's going to blow us away, I think.
Gotta live up to that now, haven't I? Pop some of my notes up here. I hate standing behind things, but I'll stick in and out. So that was a lovely welcome, thank you, and it's really great to be here with you all. I've been really excited about this for weeks, so it's terrific to see everyone here. I wanted to talk to you about enjoyment. I thought this was a really good topic, and hopefully today you will enjoy yourselves. But as you think about enjoyment as you go through the day, I think there's a more complexity to enjoyment that hopefully will come through in the design of your games as well as in the design of your experience of the day. So, Tenakoto, Tenakoto, Tenakoto Kako, or Toka Inwa, Hazel Bradshaw. That's me. I was 8 years old in that photo. It's one of those awful school photos. I don't remember enjoying having a picture taken, but I was enjoying myself in that. This was a time in my life when I had no idea what was going to happen to me. I had no idea what I was going to do with my life or where I was going to be. I had some rough ideas of what it was going to be like, what I liked to do, but really it was kind of like, I don't know, everything, the world is your oyster. But at that time, as you can see from my cheesy grin, I had this big capacity to enjoy life. And that was a really big natural thing for me. I'd enjoy anything. I'd climb trees, I'd dig dirt, I would play constantly. But that's what I wanted to remind myself of who I was before you go on this journey to where I started or where I am now. I'm originally from the UK, you can probably tell with my accent, but I came over to New Zealand about 12 years ago. I'm a New Zealand citizen. I came over here to study in depth about game design. I spent 4 years doing a doctorate down in Canterbury. Hopefully I can share some of that with you today. But I didn't want to be a game designer because I didn't know what that meant. I actually wanted to be an artist. There was a kids program back when I was yay high that was about Trumpton, and it had all these little kind of figures, and they were very busy, and there was people in shops, and there was people walking dogs, and there was firemen and all that kind of thing. There was one character who I really related to, and that was an artist. And this artist in this show would pick up an easel, wander out into the square, sit down with a canvas and an easel, and just paint everything that happened around them. And I was like, that's the job for me. I really like that idea. And that stuck with me all the way through. And then this strange thing happened. One day I ended up with this Atari game console and attached to a TV. And I had no idea what it was or what it did, but it was kind of cool. And it was Pong. And I wasn't much older than that when I got that. And I used to sit there and I was like, I don't know what this is. And I just sat and played with it. And I had paddles on it you could turn. And I was playing with these pixels and it made a noise and I was in control. And it was the most amazing feeling for this young child to go, wow, I can do these things. And I don't actually then have to interact with anyone else either, because I was also quite an introverted child. So this was great. So these two things stuck, the art side of things and this fascination with games. So I kind of went around the usual route, but I ended up in university, did fine art, painting, sculpting, that usual. But this is when computers were starting to get ubiquitous and the internet was there, so I could go and search the internet and I could play with computers. So I started doing a lot more digital art and I moved over into a lot more media side of things. And from that meant that I was really interested in kind of how we engage with media. So the long story is I found this fascination with design, but psychology as well. So how do we think about, why do we enjoy ourselves? What makes us play games? And I wanted to test that out. So when I was still in the UK, I created this theory about how you would enjoy yourself when you play a game and how you can design to that. And then I came to New Zealand, came to do my doctorate, and actually built 3 games to test out this theory. Hopefully today what I'm going to share with you is the result of what I learned with 4 years of having myself down a rabbit hole. But really the whole point of this is about enjoyment. We enjoy ourselves, eating ice cream, we can enjoy ourselves, that's enjoyable. But it's a short, transient activity. It's about pleasure rather than the depth of enjoyment. And I think we can enjoy ourselves, we can also be playful, and we can also kind of thrive. So being, if you can create a world where you can enjoy what you're doing, you're thriving. You're not just existing, but you're thriving. And that's a really great place to be. There we go. Now, it would be really remiss of me if I didn't call out the fact that what we've got at the moment, sorry, my slides are wrong way around. Remiss of me if I didn't say that we've got some massive uncertainty in the world ahead of us. We have a whole heap of things that are pressing down on a lot of your minds, and if we go into something like this talking about enjoyment, how do we know that this is the right thing to be doing? We have climate change, we have wars, we have all these things that make us feel uncertain. We're living with a pandemic. So all of these things are tangible things that can cause anxiety and challenge your ability to enjoy the life and to thrive. However, we can't just exist, because existing isn't something that gives us joy or brings us to a point where we are happy as a human being. Which brings me back to, hopefully the slides are in the right order. Here we go, play. Bear with me. We are not the only animal that plays. Play is not exclusive to us as human beings. It is a fundamental thing. It's a fundamental thing of everything. All animals play. We do this because it's a way of finding out about the world. We play when we're young, we're modelling how the world is going to work. We make mistakes, we take risks, but we do it in a safe environment. And play is an amazing thing that allows us to experiment, to try things that are new. Yet, human beings did a different thing when we started playing. We started doing this other thing, which is making games. And games are really, really, really as old as civilization. So this is the royal game of Ur. I'm not entirely sure it's the right pronunciation, from Iraq. And this game is over 4,000 years old. And it looks relatively like a modern game, like a checkers or a go board or something like that. But this game, 4,000 years old, structured. So the thing that's different with games than it is from play is it's rule-based, and you can win it, and there are rewards. So that is what makes a difference. As we've evolved from play, we've moved into games. So anything that's a rule-based scenario can be built into a game. And games are really powerful, so we live in this uncertain space now, but we can use games in our everyday lives to overcome adversity. So there's a story from around about 3,000 years ago of a city that was going through a really hard time. They had famine and they had no water, and they were kind of thinking that civilization, we're not going to make this, we're not going to make it. So what their leader or their ruler of the city at the time said is like, right, what we'll do is one day you'll eat, the next day you'll play games. So they used games as a way to engage the minds of the people to take their perspective off their starvation and off their bodies. And they did this for 18 years. And they survived. So if someone says to you games are frivolous, they're not frivolous. They are mind food. And I think that's one of the things we can think of. How can we in our uncertain world use games to give us a different perspective on the challenges that we are facing? Okay, so let's get into enjoyment. What is enjoyment? How can you break it down? So it seems simple on the surface, but enjoyment has a whole bunch of steps included in it. The first step is confidence. Confidence to do something, to act, to be here. All of you are confident because you took the step to be here today. And The second part of this is, well, if you're confident enough to be here, then you obviously have some motivation to engage. Then what you're going to find today is your skill. Where is your skill level? How do you build up your skill to do the things that you're motivated to do so you can build up more confidence? Right at the top of this is this thing called flow. And flow is what's called the universal theory, is the universal theory of enjoyment. And it's actually quite complex, but it's brilliant for designing games too. And when you get in playing it, if you ever played a game where you're so absorbed, it's that feeling that you get is described as flow. Sorry, my voice is going a little bit. I was addicted to this game. I'm going to tell you this story about me and gameplay, and this was before I came to New Zealand. This was how I stopped. This was the real reason. But I'm going to tell you the story, and hopefully that will relate to some of those things that were in that ladder. So this is my character. This is Nana. She's a hunter. She's probably one of the worst characters in World of Warcraft, but she gets pets, so I was happy with that. I didn't want to play a big online multiplayer game. I've never played one before. It was back in 2007, and they'd come out about a year earlier, and my friend had been going on, come on, play. And I've been resisting because I had a full-time job and I was being busy. And playing this is obviously, it makes time. It really can make time. So I engaged in this and I built this character, and I had no idea, didn't know what I was doing, but my friend encouraged me, so I felt confident that I could come in and play. So I came in as a hunter. I was an elf. I still have this character. I can't bear to part with it. And I didn't know what to do. So I was there in my tatty rags, in my useless boots, and I had no XP, I had no armour. And so I started to go around and kill the boar. So you killed them, and then you skinned them, and then you got the XP, and then you got the better drops. So my friend, who was wonderful, he came along and he was like so many high levels than me, and he just blasted it. And I'd just run around. So every Friday I'd just run around and I'd get stuff and I'd get drops, and he would really help. So it really helped motivate me. He really did help me engage with the thing. And as my skill developed, my confidence grew, and I carried on. And then I explored a bit more, and then I joined a guild. And so we'd run a few dungeons, and I'd get a few instances and get some really good drops, and I'd kind of get my armour. And I started to not necessarily need to have my friend with me all the time. So I'd go and play with the guild, and I'd do, it was great. It was fun at this point. It was really fun. And then I got good. And then I joined my friend's guild because I'd leveled right up. And his guild was a raiding guild. So every Friday, I'd come back from work, and I lived a really long way away. So I drove back, and I'd get to my computer, and I'd instantly go, oh my God. And then I'd have 40 people go, you're ready. And then we'd go in to do the boss level, and it was just this, you pew pew pewing, and you would get shouted at because someone had stepped into the wrong thing and got hit by the wrong thing, and you had to wipe the whole crew. And then it started to feel like a job. But my skill level was really high, and I could do it, and I was like hitting the boss levels. And then I was like, oh, I've got to stop raiding because it's just destroying me. This feels like work now. But I'd gone through this whole set of parameters that I could then see for myself in the game designs that I was building and playing. So I was lecturing at university and then teaching game design. So I could see what was happening to me. The World of Warcraft gameplay is so well crafted, so beautiful that it keeps you going, but it also wears you out. So thinking about that story, I just want to dig in a little bit into confidence. So I want you to think about confidence today, not just of yourselves, but the confidence that you want to instill in who you're going to be designing your games for, because you want them to feel confident that they won't start playing. And this is a kind of good building block of enjoyment. And confidence is the experience we have when we feel we can actually do the task in front of us. So when a task comes up to us, we look at it and go, I can do that. Mentally, in your head, go, I can do that. And then the second part, which is the can happen part, is that you actually then do it. So what happens with confidence? You get a lot in your head that says, I can do it, but you don't take that first action to test that theory you've got in your mind. Always test the theory, it will build your confidence really quickly. But you need to be able to feel that you can actually achieve that task. So if you've got, think of your audience today with who you'll be playing your game with, or for, building your game for. Think about what their confidence level will be when they come in, and how much of the help they need to be able to go from can do to can have. Motivation. So you're confident, but motivation is like this mental energy you bring to a task so you can engage with it. That's motivation, really. It's your mental energy to get somewhere. My motivation today is two types, intrinsic and extrinsic. My motivation today is intrinsic, which is something that came from me, inside of me. My value is something I hold dear. And coming and being invited today to come and talk to you about these things that I love, and to actually stand up, because there was no one like me when I was that 8-year-old. It was all guys in suits and teachers in white coats. There was no one that looked like me, and there's no one that could talk to me about these things. So this is a real thing for me to be able to say, give back something and say, hey, you know, there are people that look like you. There are ways for this to progress for you as a girl in the gaming environment. So that's my intrinsic motivation. My extrinsic motivation for coming today is usually things that come from the outside. So I also have a job, and I have a great job, and I work for a company called Datacom, who are just over there. I'm going to my team. But it's part of my job as well, is to come and talk about the company, and I get paid to do that job. And that's an extrinsic motivation. So when someone gives you money to do something, you take the money, it's very motivating when you get paid. And then you go and buy something, or you do something with that money. That's extrinsic. So it's pushing you from the outside, but it still moves you forward. It still motivates you. But the real motivations, whatever you hold dear, your core values, those are the things you want to tap into when you are thinking about designing a game, but also when you're thinking about moving through life. What means the most to me? Because if you don't attach something to your core motivations, you'll stop doing it really quickly. I'll tell you the reason why. So the mid part of this ladder of things that build up enjoyment is so complex, is being able to be skillful, to have skill. Rock climbing is one of these things where you have a lot of skill, because when you start off, you're not very good, people are wobbly. And it's the same with computer games. You have to build up skill. You can't just throw someone in a boss level in a raid and expect them to be okay, because they won't. So how long do they need to build their skills? How much scaffolding do you need to put in your gameplay to be able to build that skill up? Skill performance comes from behavioral science and psychology, and it's usually how we do things physically, but it's also, I think, a real mental part of what we do as well. How we use environments, how we learn how to use environments, not just the gameplay missions, but also the keyboard, the mouse, the UI. Takes skill. So do think about that as well. Big thing with skill is you need a clear goal. A clear goal like this, the climbing clear goal is like you get to the top. That's a really clear goal, because there's only one alternative really, it's the bottom. And the second part of that is a challenge. So a goal without a challenge is pointless, because we don't like that as human beings. We've evolved a lot over the millennia. And we've done it to survive, so we're tapping into those survival instincts that allowed us to be as ubiquitous across the planet as we are. But skill has these phases that we go through, and this is wonderful for gameplay. So the science behind skill then goes through 3 phases. One is cognitive, which means you have to think about everything you do all the time, because you just don't have the skill. Then you come to associative, where you can go, oh, I've learned that skill, I'm going to take that skill, I'm going to use it over here with this skill. And the last one is autonomous, which is like, I know everything, all my skills are just embedded within me, and I am boss leveling up, I am taking down that boss. And that's the autonomous phase. In gameplay, you can think of it as easy, medium, and hard. And games really fit themselves into this. These phases are quite stretchy, so it depends on what you're asking, the challenge you're asking your players to do, is how much time you give them in each phase. And it's a really kind of quite a simple thing. Decide what the goal is, decide the challenge that you're asking the player, give them some tasks to do so they can reach that challenge, give them feedback on the challenge so they know if they're doing it well or not doing it well, and then give them a reward. Because every time we get a reward, we get these like chemicals exploding in our brains and we feel good. That's the only things we ever really enjoy, by the way, is the chemicals exploding in our brains. But that's how you build up skill. And the last of this steps is flow. And I don't know how many of you recognise this game, but this is the game Journey. And this game is entirely predicated. Its build is based on flow theory. It is about getting the ultimate enjoyment out of something. And a flow state is the theory, it's the ultimate expressional theory of enjoyment. It's how we enjoy stuff. It describes that feeling that you get at the end of playing a game, or while you're playing a game. Again, flow only happens if you've got a clear goal, and it only happens if you think you have a chance of reaching that goal. This is what Journey does so well. Puts you here right out in the desert. It gives you your avatar. First thing you see is the mountain, and with a shiny pinnacle on it. And you know instinctively that you've got to get to that mountain. And you look across the desert and you go, there's nothing in the way. That's going to be easy. I'll start. So you get confidence immediately. So you take that first step. And then you find, oh, there's something, I've got to go and look at that. And you test out your skill, you pick up your vanity, you can fly, you do all these nice things. And then it gets more complex. And as you climb the mountain, it gets more and more complex and more difficult. But you are so in this state of challenge that you reach the top of that mountain and you get this beautiful reward. I'm not going to read it for anyone that hasn't played it. I would recommend it. And that's a flow state. So what they're trying to do is push you into this state of flow. And flow happens when you have this balance between the challenge and the skill. So you get into this space and you are gone for hours, 6, 7 hours. Anyone played a game and you're gone? You're in that state of flow. But what happens when there's out of balance, when you're not in flow? So if your challenge is really high and your skill level is really low, like a newbie being thrown in front of a boss, you are going to get so anxious that you will stop playing and you'll stop engaging. And this isn't a theory of game design, this is a theory of life, of enjoying life. So think about that as well when you go through life. Second part, if your skill is so high, you've got really good skills, and the challenge you've been given is so low, you'll get bored and you will stop engaging. So bear those things in mind, and can you tweak them in your life as well as in your gameplay? So I just want to kind of wrap up where we were with this. We started thinking about games, my little self, and the fact that we all play, animals play, we all play. But games are kind of one step further and deeper from play. And if we can play, we can start getting those conditions that allow us to enjoy our lives and enjoy the gameplay. And if we can do that, we can thrive. And yeah, the world is full of some really massive challenges. But when I was doing my research into games, part of what I was doing was creating games that are called serious games that allow you to then engage in complex and difficult problems, put them into a game, and allow people to play through what could be a solution. So thinking about what you can do with using gameplay to actually help with some of these massive challenges. And it's very possible, and there's a whole lot of research out there. It's a really good place to put your energy. So last thought, as you head out into your game sessions, Flow experiences usually occur when we confront tasks we have a chance of completing. I know that today you feel that you can confront the tasks that you have ahead of you in your game design sessions, and you have a chance of completing. Hold that in your mind. Hopefully you'll get somewhere into being in a flow state. But as you design, think about what are the tasks you're asking your audience or player to achieve, and can they do it? Because if they don't, if they can't, you don't think they can. It's either boredom or anxiety, which means they'll stop doing what you would like them to do. So thank you very much for inviting me here. And hopefully some of this, I know everyone's feeling a little time to wake up, hopefully some of this will stick, and I'll be around dotting in and out during the day to have conversations with you. But thank you.
Do you have any questions for Hazel? I think that was a fantastic journey, starting from a place where counts, is engaging in the play yourself, and then starting to question, like, why are things happening this way?
Yeah, I think there was a game I played, it was Jet Set Willy, and I really enjoyed it, and I was completely immersed in it, and I sat down one day with a bunch of paper, and I mapped out the entire gameplay level so I could see what was happening. Then I knew I was a bit of a nerd, so that was the point where I was like, okay, I'm going to give in to this at some point. And now I have this role where I don't design games now. What I do is play with lots of new technology, and there's everything in game design I bring to that experience, to looking at building software for helping people engage in things like HoloLenses and digital twins. And to me, games, really? Don't tell all the boss people over there, but I'm just thinking I'm playing a game. How would I design this game? How are people going to engage in this game? So that's what I do, and it's hopefully there's a lot of transferable skills you'll get from the sessions you've got that will take you into your life.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that, Hazel. Thank you. All right, so with that, we're just going to move into our first session, which is the design session for today. Okay. So just quickly